Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Power to Shred podcast. This is where unstoppable energy and peak performance are born from unlocking the power that's already within you. And it is my joy and honor to have Dr. Catie Damato here. And we're going to get a little closer in on her unique approach to this all. Dr. Catie Damato, a doctor of physical therapy and a certified yoga instructor, the founder of Balance by Catie. Quick little background, and feel free afterwards, I'll ask you so you could go into more detail. With a rich background spanning orthopedic rehabilitation, sports medicine, and yoga, Dr. Damato offers a holistic approach to wellness that empowers individuals to listen to their bodies and to move without pain. Welcome, Catie.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So, just a little note for all of you. Catie and I met each other in California, Dana Point, California, Baby Beach performance paddling. And then from there, with the magic of technology, we've stayed in touch. And now I have the honor to be able to bring her on and share her story. And how about with that? What inspired you to go to pursue this path that you are on?
Yeah, growing up, play and movement was just a way of life for me. I played three different sports. I played tennis, basketball, softball, pretty much year round, depending on the season. And I'd actually, in eighth grade, I fractured my wrist twice. First, taking a charge in basketball. Second, someone sliding into me at third base. In
Ooh.
the same season, I guess, it got the cast off and then headed to the softball field and then fractured again. And then I remember that summer having difficulty holding a tennis racket to get into tennis shape, and so I went to actually a physical therapist. And I think at that time, even though I was so young, something inside me was like, oh, this is pretty neat. Like, it just help people listen to their stories, and it's all based on movement and moving well. And I think that planted the seed. And then as I moved forward and then got to college and I played college tennis, I was taking business classes and health education classes. Exercise science was my major. And those exercise science classes just were so interesting. And it just felt really good to learn about the body as I was applying it to myself as a tennis player.
Mm. Isn't that amazing? I mean, that's also why I do what I do, is that the human body is incredible and what it does, that it's a living, breathing, moving science that's constantly going on. And the more we know about it, the more we can take better care of it.
Yeah, definitely. And that was neat.
And then what led you into, I mean, the physical therapy and the yoga and that unique approach? That's a really unique combination.
Yeah, I was working in La Jolla, California, and I was about 4 years into living in Southern California and getting more and more introduced to yoga. At that time, I was doing like long distance cycling. I was doing half marathons, and I
Mm.
found that yoga was just such a nice balance for all the endurance sports. Knowing my body and knowing as a physical therapist that the recovery piece was so important, I was really drawn
Yeah.
towards yoga for that. And also, I think the spiritual aspect, I grew up going to Catholic church on Sundays, and I had kind of let that go as I moved out of my hometown, but it's still kind of being in a spiritual, reflective environment was something that was important to me that I was seeking out. I was living really far away from family and stuff, and so it felt like a little bit of a home, like a sanctuary. And so, yeah, personally doing that, noticing that yoga was so popular in Southern California. And then I think the key was working with patients and just having this sense after time that even though I could help them physically, whether it was like massaging their neck and gaining range of motion and their hips, and there was always an emotional and a psychological, maybe mental, let's just say mental component to it, whether it was
Yeah.
a professional volleyball player that had an ACL tear, and the minute I said like, okay, we're ready to squat, we're ready to jump, you could just tell there was a like there was a fear
Yeah.
there, or muscles being tight, and then we release them, and then they come back and they're tight again, or you could just sense this underlying piece of it that needed to be addressed as well. And I think that with yoga, the breathing, mindfulness, quiet time is a really good space to tune into what's going on, not only physically, but mentally, emotionally.
Mm. That's so beautiful. I wanted to ask about this because it is said that the body holds the emotions, the body holds these experiences, that somatic body. And it sounds like that's something that you're touching on a little bit. And could you give us a little more depth on that of like you're saying that perhaps someone has an injury? I don't have much understanding. That's why we have you here as an expert. But
Mhm.
certain emotions tend to be stored in certain areas. What is your take on that? What's your experience on that?
In my experience, because I'm touching like the muscles, the fascia all the time, I
Yeah.
can feel it under my fingertips. I can feel the tension.
Mm.
And I can see it the way that people move. And I think I don't have a lot of science behind this except for my own experience. I mean, there is science behind it that I've studied, but from my experience, we just hold tension in different places in our body, and then it shows up in how we move, how we breathe, how we orient ourselves to the world. I mean, as simple as like I'm sitting here and say we were to have a tornado or an earthquake right now, something, the skies, I'm looking at the outside, like say the skies got gray or whatever, there would be
Mm-hmm.
there's a little bit of a reaction there. And I think
Yeah.
that from my experience, when people are injured, I think it comes out a lot with motor vehicle accidents. Someone will come after a car accident, and there's just this tension that's within them that you say, okay, can you move your head to the left? And they'll only go super far. So you see some, and not only go so far. So you'll see guarding, and then you put your hands on there and you can feel it. And then once you start guiding them and creating a safe space, say I'm holding someone's head and I'm saying, okay, we're going to turn to the left. And just that sense of safety, your hands guiding them, all of a sudden they have so much more movement, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that to me is very obvious. Like the body is guarding because it's scared to go into that position for
Mm-hmm.
whatever has traumatic has happened.
Yeah. So powerful. And that really
Yeah.
to me is what I love about your work and what you do is it's really tuning into the power within of the human body, of listening to the body and like you said, creating that safe space
Hmm.
so that there is the possibility to open up to healing and everybody's healing. I mean, the whole you're training, we break the system down and then we need to re-heal and hopefully just the whole beauty of the name of your practice, Balanced by Catie, to come back to a state of balance physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually.
Yeah. Hmm. That's all part of it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I can tell another story. This one's
Yeah,
pretty
please.
significant. I had a former college track and field athlete that I was working with, and she had a lot of hip pain and she wanted to get back into running, but the hip pain was preventing her from doing that. And I was seeing her for maybe, a couple months, and gradually saying, okay, after this session, I want you to try a run walk. I want you to try to get back into running in that capacity. And she'd always, like for a week, she would come back and I'd say, okay, did you do it? And she'd be like, no, I wasn't really ready yet. My hip started hurting again. And then we would go back to square one, work through it. She'd be doing jumping, agility ladder, all this stuff with me and be fine. So at some point, I kind of said to her, do you believe that you can do a half marathon in a year, let's say, because that was her goal? Like, do you see yourself crossing the finish line? And she really had to sit with that because I think there was underlying that unsure about it, and not knowing if her body could take her there because she had been through so much. Um, I don't even think I said this, but she had a foot fracture, and that led to her rehabbing and getting back into her track and field too early, and then re-injuring it. So it was like a cycle of re-injury.
Right.
So I think going through all of that really set the stage for having difficulty getting back into running when that she really wanted to do it. So I said, maybe look into a sports psychologist. And I gave her a list of names in San Diego, and she started doing
Mm-hmm.
that. And then she started coming to the other side and getting better. But I think that's an example of how we can work so well together in healthcare and how so important it is to look at it from different aspects. And in my how I work with patients, if I get to a stopping point, need to ask for help or seek other things because there is that other piece of it that has to be addressed.
Yes. I love how you touched on is it came down to her belief in oneself, disbelief in oneself, really. It's like, I don't know if I can do this. Or it just sounds like trauma, fear, and then holding on to the fear that, although to this point, I really don't know if I can do this. And how essential the sports psychologist, bringing all of the pieces together in order to maximize her true potential. Like, hey, this is as far as we can go together here using these modalities. Another assistance is needed to come back
Exactly.
to balance all of the different areas.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's
Yeah.
really, really
Hmm.
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It was neat. It was good. And then she
Mm,
actually ended up, we talked a couple months ago, she became a yoga instructor and, now she's going down her own path of that, which is pretty neat.
I love that. I really do love that. So it sounds like a breakthrough moment. Also, really sounds like the work that you're doing, it's a mix of different things that we are relating. These are relationships with our patients, with the clientele, and developing that relationship. I'm curious about that as maybe in the screening process, what type of questions, I mean, because I'm just really curious about this all, is that because it's placing that trust in you, but then you have to also understand the individual of where they are, their background experience, but then also who they are as a person, also perhaps their belief systems. How open are they to really go in depth with you doing the work? Because it's the work which is the physical work, but there's more work than that. Do you have a
Sorry, I just had a
system?
tickle. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Do
Um,
what you need to do.
thanks. I think it's really, that's why I love my practice because it's very personalized and individualized to the patient. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, just like you're gathering trust, right? It takes time to build that relationship, to build that trust, to build that rapport where they know, hey, this person is on my side, like any coach,
Right.
um, player relationship. Like they say, like doctors with good bedside manner, right? Like you're creating this connection
Yeah.
where they're putting their trust in you. And so I think that's really important. And that's why it's kind of tough when people go to physical therapy offices and I hear stories of like, oh, well, I started out with Brian, but then, I started seeing Megan and then I started seeing another therapist. And it's like,
Yeah.
I understand that's how the practice needs to work, maybe, but
Mm-hmm.
you're not getting consistent eyes on you. You're not creating that relationship. You're not creating that trust. And so that's why I moved from that type of model of working in a busy clinic to a private practice where I'm actually at people's homes or offices. And it's like full on, I'm listening, I'm with you, I'm understanding you. I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not talking to my coworker. It's like all about you. And I think in a world of distractions, that's really important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you mind, or can you care, or can you share a little bit more about that? Because that really is another unique aspect about what you do, is that personalized, undivided attention. It isn't the busy, and perhaps also bringing in that, that mind body connection. We are here, we are present, and then also noticing when the person is there or not. I mean, that too, when I have coaching sessions with the individuals, like they're not there. They're on the phone, they're doing other things. Like,
Yeah.
it's not an effective session. This is again distraction, distraction. Let's get clear, let's get centered. What is your approach on that? How do you integrate that into your systems? Like, share a little more
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
your,
Yeah. Yeah.
if you're
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of times I meet people, sometimes they're like busy CEOs or investors, or, I'll get like the story like, oh, I'm running this new part of my business and I was up till 1 o'clock last night because I work really late, really well late at night, or like I had like, a few late or long days at work. And immediately that cues to me like, okay, like how do I get them centered? This is like noon on a work day.
yeah,
How do I get them centered here? Ask like, okay, how can I help you be present with your body today? If they didn't get a lot of sleep, it's like that kind of cues me. Maybe we'll go a different route where it's more mobility and a little lighter than like heavy lifting. So that all comes into account, but also if I can sense that there's like tension from work, from family stress, from whatever, and maybe there's like I can tell their mind's moving fast. I'll get
Mm-hmm.
them laying down, hands on the lower rib cage, and we'll just start with eyes closed, diaphragmatic breathing. I'll just cue breathing to
Mm-hmm.
really A, slow them down, B, get them present, C, present to the space, C, present to their body, and that we're going to work together for the next hour, and maybe they can let go of all the other things so that it can be, like you said, a very an effective session, because neither of us want to be there and going through the motions. So
Right.
yeah, usually that works really, really well. It's
Mm-hmm.
always reading that, it's kind of reading as soon as you enter a space with somebody. Do they need to down regulate? Do they need to up regulate? And
Mm-hmm.
also asking them, like, I have no problem saying, where's your energy today? Where can we best utilize our time? Because it's their hour too. As much as I'm coming with my professional experience and what I want to guide them through and have maybe a plan, it's also seeing, where are you today? What's important to you?
Mm-hmm.
I'm playing 9 holes. I'm playing 18 holes of golf this weekend. Okay, let's get into some rotational things. Like, so
Yeah.
kind of reading where they are in this season or this week of their life.
Mm-hmm. One, that the fact that you have that much time together, that's amazing compared to, like you said, in the typical system, 15, 20 minutes, boom, just do a quick something versus this is undivided attention. This is personal. I mean, this is physical therapy, yoga, personal training.
Oh yeah, all of it. Yeah, and that's the best
So good.
part. Yeah,
That
and
is
sometimes it's
so
like a
good.
yoga flow to just like if I need to upregulate them, it's like
Mm-hmm.
a 10-minute. Okay, stand at the top of the mat, arms up overhead, getting them into a flow just to get the body, the blood moving.
Mm-hmm.
And people really love that. People are always asking for yoga, especially men. I feel like a lot of times maybe they're unsure, men or women, I should say. I shouldn't say one or the
Mm-hmm.
other, but maybe more men unsure about going to a yoga studio. So they're always kind of like, "Can we do yoga today?" Um,
Mm.
and then they do it. A lot of my patients do it on their own. They have their own routine that I go over with them. We videotape it, or I give like guided cues, and so they'll just listen to it on their phone, and they'll just go through their yoga mobility routine. And I think
Mm.
that's really effective. It's a way to breathe, flow, and maintain the mobility after we work together. Until I see them in another week, they can maintain the gains that we've made.
Mm. That is fantastic because it
Yeah.
is. There's a lot of intimidation about yoga. We know that it's good. People know about the things, but people that have male or female that have had not had that experience or not have had a positive experience, there's intimidation, there's all kinds of other things. But again, like you're saying, creating that safe place and space and then that feeling no judgment, fully accepted, and then tailoring it just for them. Like there's no better like that. And then the fact that you give them like here's your practice for the coming week. Like that's
Yeah.
time frame wise, how much time is that little practice? Because that's the number one thing that I always hear from people, right? Everybody's busy, everybody's busier than busier, the plate is full. I don't have time. So when you give them a practice like this, here's your mobility work for the coming week, about how much time, that probably depends as well. But what
5 to 10 minutes. Yeah, 10 minutes maximum. Yeah, it's nothing too more than that. Yeah, I would say 10 minutes is pretty average.
nice.
And I would say as a physical therapist, I would give people stretches. I used to give a piece of paper with a hamstring stretch. Okay, hold it 30 seconds 3 times. I remember always thinking to myself, like, if someone gave that to me, I wouldn't do it. You just don't add that to your day. So I think adding a yoga flow feels more intentional or just easier to access because it's like you're spending time stretching in like a movement playful way rather than statically holding a stretch. I think it's more accessible. It just moves the whole body, more fluid, and it's like a purposeful movement practice or like here's a 20-minute video or go to an hour class instead of 3 times a day, hold the hamstring stretch for 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's as accessible. I
Yeah.
think people forget that. Just kind of like, oh, I forgot to stretch, but it's like, okay, create a morning routine where you get up, you do your thing, maybe you read, maybe you journal, okay, and then put 10 minutes on your iPhone timer, do your mobility work, and then get on with your day. Or put a yoga mat next to your desk. And when you have a break, Just get on the mat, hands and knees, whatever, and just like move your body.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. Well, obviously, because I'm in love with yoga. So to me is, and that's just, again, it doesn't have to, people have these notions, oh, I have to commit to a 1 hour, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, something to, like you said,
Yeah.
either awaken the body or down regulate the body, whatever you need. But I agree with you. A flow, the fluidity of movement. Our body's designed to move. Our body's
Mhm.
designed to move. And when you get the body starting to move, and obviously we have to breathe, but if you start to breathe with intention, when we put those all together, it's it's a unique experience. And that's the whole difference. Like you said, that's truly living, breathing practice as opposed to here's a piece of paper, do this thing, 30 seconds. Yeah, that's easy. Like you don't have that feeling. You don't have,
It's
it's an
different. Yeah.
experience, mind,
Hmm.
body experience.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I find it personally be very, like what you said, energizing. If I'm having a slow day, and I need to pep up instead of having a cup of coffee, like, okay, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
just do some stretching. And then all of a sudden my
Yes.
body's kind of woken up.
Mm-hmm. And again, which ties back to, which is the power within our own human body, that when we can take the time to get still, get centered, that doesn't take forever. And the more we, because that's also a practice. It's crazy, crazy. Okay, let me take a deep breath. What do I really need right now? Do I need to jump on that call right now? Like, nope, I'm going to take a breath. And then
Hmm.
just, I mean, we do yoga. We've been doing this, so maybe it's easy for us, but it's not. I mean, life,
No,
life,
no.
life is life. Life is always lifing. And like, what do we need to do?
Yeah. And as high performers, I mean, you and I are in that category, and the people that we want to treat are in that category, and we
Right.
know what it's like to want to finish that to-do list. So,
Mm-hmm.
we're right there with our patients, with our clients.
Yes. And I think that also is that edge because we understand. Because if we're not there, you can say, well, just do all of these things. But I wanted to ask you about your own practice and your routine. Do you have a routine, or are your days constantly changing? What could you share your
Oh,
practice?
good
Where do you find
question.
time for you? Because it's also what I find we need to embody what we are sharing with others, right? If we say, I need to find stillness, I want to find balance, it's not going to come across, it will not be received if you yourself are not in balance. And so I try to make sure when I have time, I start my day with some meditation, conscious breathing, a little bit of movement, depending on how much time I have, so that I'm prepared. I can create that space for the people that I'm meeting. But what about you?
Yeah. I will say that the best mornings for me are getting up and getting like getting something in my body, food wise or nutrition wise, and then getting to the gym, and then coming back from that and maybe sitting with the best days are when I have like a daily message that I read. I actually have
Mm,
not done that in a while, but you're reminding me that that's always good. Like just a short, something to prep the day. I used to have
mm-hmm.
this book. It was called Surf Like a Girl, and it was
Ah,
they would just have little stories of women and how they found surfing in their life. Just something inspiring
mm-hmm.
to set the tone for a nice day. And then
Mm,
yeah, and then throughout the day, as needed, stretching, moving, getting down on the ground, and kind of down regulating through reading at night. I just actually signed up with a somatic coach
ooh,
yesterday. So I'm going to be
wow.
doing a 10 session she's somatic leadership coaching. So I'm currently in the season of working through the somatics in my own body, and not only, for myself, for first and foremost, but like you said, for myself so I can better be with my patients, my relationships, like all everything that we do for ourselves ripples out to everyone around us. So I think that's really
Absolutely.
important. So I'm just
Mm-hmm.
making sure to take care of me too, and like what you say, like yoga. I'm teaching 3 yoga classes a week right now, so I'm telling myself I need to sign up for one class a week for
For
me as
you.
well.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm always pretty mindful. I mean, I have this practice actually that I like that I would recommend for people that you work with, and you might have this that you do with them, but kind of sitting with a journal or a piece of paper. I like writing things And like writing out the buckets of things that are important to you,
Mm-hmm.
family, health, whatever is are your values, and then just taking inventory of how much energy you're putting into each of them, like your energy buckets. And I think it becomes pretty clear when you haven't called your parents in a while or your sister, or all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden you see that you're like, that family is a little empty, like I need to put energy into that. Or, oh, like my yoga practice is a little empty, like my spiritual practice, like I maybe I should redirect some energy into that. So I like balance, like the name of my company, it's
Mm-hmm.
just like making sure that what I'm spending energy and time on are things that really fuel me and are important to me, because that's going
Mm-hmm.
to create the best me that there could be inside and
Yes.
outside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's a simple reflection. It's a simple reflection, taking some time. I think, again, it's just carving out a little bit of time to look at what are my values? What is truly valuable to me? And am I using my precious time to nurture those areas that I say are of value to me, are of importance to me? And
Hmm.
so good. And so then how much time, like, is that something that you do as a weekly practice where you look like, okay, let's how did the week go? Is it more of starting the week, ending the week, reflecting back? How did that week go? Or maybe it's a little start the week, these are my values. This coming week I have these things going on. Let's find balance in these buckets. And then at the end of the week, a little reflection, like, how did I do? Oh, okay, I'll do a better job. Oh,
Yeah.
I really like what I did there.
Yeah, usually for me, it's more of I'm always prepping my week, but I think the end of the week is when I take inventory. And lately it's been more, I actually had a week of maybe a month or so ago where I was like, wow, that felt so fulfilling that week. Like,
Mm,
however I spent that week. And then I went back to my planner and I actually looked at, and I think I even recorded how much time I spent in all these different aspects to just be like, okay, that's my ideal week.
mm-hmm.
So moving forward, how can I continue to recreate that? Because I
Yeah.
felt just really balanced in the things that I did, like we were just talking about. So I think it's definitely a
Mm,
reflection type
mm-hmm.
thing. Hmm.
Yeah. Mm. And then just having the holding yourself accountable, and then you can look back and actually see, as opposed to, I mean, there's different things to see, but also feel like, wow, that felt rewarding. That felt nourishing. Like, food. Oh, that tasted so good, and it was nourishing, and it was healthy, and the movement that I did, and to look back. And I like you said that, because then it's also a reference point. Oh, what did I do there? Can I recreate that? Can I create that, recreate that? And
Hmm.
that's a really powerful practice. And again, I love what you're sharing too, because these are simple things. These aren't a whole life transformation. Like, just take some time and look at what your week was like.
Yeah, yeah, and it's been also a challenge for me because I can tend to want to say yes to a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
and to know, like, where my energy is best directed, like who it's with, who I'm in front of, or who I'm collaborating with, or how I'm spending my time indoors or outdoors. And I think that for me, I also have just been through a season of taking on too much. And so now,
Mm-hmm.
and then I can feel that irritability and frustration come up. And so that's like time to check in, like look at that and think, oh, I
Yeah.
need more white space in my calendar. I need to simplify and
Mm-hmm.
like down regulate, simplify a little bit, because that just was too overwhelming, even though it was exciting and fun maybe, but it was too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's really powerful. And that's taking control of one's life. And that is where our power lies. That it comes back to power of choice. We can choose. Maybe I should say, we get to choose. And that's how we empower ourselves. Like, I can say yes and I can say no. Saying yes here is actually draining. And so I'm not going to
Hmm.
say yes in the future. I know I'll have
Hmm.
other opportunities, right? And then also, too, there will be other opportunities. But can I do a better job? Like you said, can I have some white space in between? Part of mine, too, I mean, literally, like today is one of these, like back to back, but it's like, okay, that's not forever, because that's not the ideal way to be living life. But then also that
Hmm.
reflection, can I do a better job next time? Or maybe I should say, like, okay, not only can I'm going to ask the question, yes, I can do a better job next time. I'll put some filler time in there. And
Hmm.
I think that's also the beauty too, that this is our lives. It's that flow. maybe we're not at water right now, but the fluidity of life or the yoga flow, right? Energy flows. And when we have it so
Yeah.
constrained and so compartmentalized, like that's not a good feeling. We can feel that right away versus time to breathe. Yeah, I need that. I need that.
Yeah, yeah, and going back to, I feel like yoga just allows that. As soon as you enter a yoga studio and you lay in your on your back, and the instructor sets the intention or asks you what your intention is, it's just that space, just kind of like being on the water too, right? Yeah, I was surfing in Southern California, and you don't have a phone out there. You just have you and your friends and the waves and
Right.
the birds, the pelicans. It's like time to just be. It's so important.
So important. I love that. I mean, time to be is essential. It's essential. Just that stillness, that quiet. It just makes me want to like, ooh, is there a way that we can get a taste of maybe one of your practices or classes for people to get even more, a little bit of of you and what you do?
Yeah, I actually have a fair amount of videos that are on my YouTube channel, both hour-long classes, and it'll say like yoga for shoulders or yoga for quiet time is one of them. So I like to have a theme, physical and a mental, emotional theme to all my classes. And so I have a bunch of those classes on my YouTube channel. I also have 10, 20-minute, whether it's a slow restorative stretch or an active stretch for your hips. Yeah, I have a bunch of them there, so that would be easy to just sign on and do.
And that's what's the beauty of YouTube. And I saw the short little ones like two something and then
Hmm.
groups and then you have little ones and then beautiful scenery of where you're at. And again, that's a
Yeah.
chance where people can have a taste. And when something works, then you make a note of it like, oh, save that, make a playlist because then you can come back to it.
Oh
Just
yeah.
like you were
Yeah.
saying of making a video, like here's a video of a practice session that you can do for the coming week to help you take better care of yourself.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's important. I just want to say that a big piece of physical therapy or the one-on-one sessions I have with patients is talking about these things. And that's another beauty to having an hour with your patient is you get to talk about like, okay, well, how many times you're working out this week? We're constantly figuring out like, well, is that going to feel good in your body? Okay. And I actually just worked with someone this morning, and she's saying that her job is really stressful. Just in this segment, something changed. It got really stressful, and the only classes she's doing for working out, I mean, she's doing 3 to 4 workout classes a week. She does them at 5:45 a.m. before her small kids get up, but they're kind of like hit and sculpt and powerful classes. And so I challenged her because she's holding on to tension in her body. Hey, like, I'm going to challenge you to take some slower classes. I'm finding that a lot of that there's, you know, I finding that some of my patients have difficulty slowing down. So
Yeah.
we talk about like her life in general, like when are you using your energy? How can we maybe shift this just to try out so that you can help your body heal rather than continuing on this like this strong building phase. Why don't we go into a little bit of a recovery phase and see how your body does with that, because you're complaining of all this hip pain, low back pain, wrist tension, all these things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Catie, how can listeners, viewers find you, get more information about you? What are your handles, social media?
Yeah, they can follow me at Balanced by Catie. And then my website, balancedbykatie.com. They can sign up I have a monthly newsletter that has it has exercise videos in it. It has inspiration and education, some research articles, and Facebook, Balanced by Catie as well. And yeah, and then also on my website, there's a contact page. So people are free to contact me via email. We can do a virtual call as well. I do see patients virtually in California and Ohio. I'm actually
Nice.
headed to San Diego mid-May, and I'm seeing some
Ooh, so am
patients
I.
there. So,
Maybe we
oh,
can link up
okay.
our calendars.
Yeah, that'd be
Yay.
great.
Catie, it's been such a pleasure. Are there any closing remarks that as we come to a finish that, ooh, I wish I could have said this?
Yeah. I think just a big thing that can tie this all together is the relationship that you have with your body and making sure that
Yes.
you're tuning into that on a regular basis. There's so much that when your eyes are open, there's so much input that you're taking in, but just to take time to close your eyes and like really go within and just ask your body what it needs to feel safe, to feel strong, and all that. I think the power of relating to your body and understanding it is really important.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And Catie, thank you so much for
You're
your
welcome.
time and thank you for what you do.
Yeah, thank you for having me and for having this platform. It's a great way to feel inspired and energized and gain information.
Yes, that's the whole goal. Yep. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Catie.